message is going out to you, my very special clients. This is only for my VIP list, and this is just to give you the best of what I can of what's going on overall in the real estate industry. Most of you are landlords who entrust me with your properties, and I want to start by addressing that because I think there's been so much turnover and so much chaos in the last 12 months that you deserve a 30,000 foot view of that. So first, I want to explain some of the backdrop. In 2019, the Tenant Protection Act passed in California in the state legislature, was signed into law in September of 2019. It was signed into law without any of us really knowing some of the ramifications of that. The biggest of which is that if you have a tenant who's been with you for more than a month, you now, if you give them notice, have to pay them a month's worth of rent. So if they're there for 24 months, you have to pay them a month. So it's 25 months is what it'll cost you to get rid of them. Even if it's for, a lot of good reasons, like you want to upgrade and remodel or whatever. Number two, starting last August is when the moratorium was finally lifted, and kind of like the old Southwest commercial, it was ding ding, you're free to move about the country. But what happened as a result of that is that the 10% cost of living increase that was from 2020 to 21, and then the 10% cost of living increase from 21 to 22 all hit this year. So for most of you, some of you had turnovers in 21, but a lot of you didn't. And so this year, we've had to give notices to tenants. And frankly, we had to do that because you were so far behind, we couldn't catch the tenants back up. Because now, with the statewide rent cap, we were limited at 10%. We're really limited at 9.1%. And so that was really our issue. So if I had an average tenant that was renting for $2,000 a month in an average property that we managed last year, this year that rent is now $2,400 a month. Some of you have seen bumps in the meantime, and so it won't quite be like that, but in general, that's the way it is, forcing us to then have to give notice and turn. Some was even more than that, depending upon yard space and things that now post-pandemic are more at a premium. Some have had more maintenance issues because the HOAs have been doing less, and so they've actually seen some challenges that they're having to deal with. But I wanted to start by the big picture, which is for you, if you're a landlord and you're entrusting us with your property, you're seeing a rent increase of about 20% if you didn't have a tenant turnover between 2020 and now all of a sudden they're turning over. This is what's happening. That's number one. Number two, what's really going on and why is this, what's really going to happen with our marketplace? And I think the second piece is going to be what we see going on with inflation, which we just talked about a bit, and number two, which is energy prices. I'm going to include two articles that are from the Wall Street Review from this past weekend that I think did a great job in talking about inflation from back in the 70s and even actually post-World War II, a brief time in the 40s, and kind of explaining to us what that looks like for today. But we kind of have the convergence of the government taking on a lot of debt, followed by a faltering economy, and this is what this looks like. And then part two is the energy prices. And as the energy prices continue to go up and stay up, that's really what's causing the problems on some of the rental side of things. But on the flip side, it's keeping your actual values up, and that's because replacement costs are still so high. So I'm sure if you've talked to me recently, you've heard me say, I'm still struggling to get good housekeepers, good painters, good handymen. That it's just since the pandemic, some of those things are really a battle. And why is that? And that's because all of those jobs that, maybe pre-pandemic were at, maybe $25 to $35 an hour, those people are actually in the gig economy making a whole lot more than that. But again, it's the gig economy. They're not necessarily working 40 hours a week. And they're also having to try and struggle to pay rent and make a living. So it's been a real battle to keep those people in our pipeline and keep them going. Thank goodness that I had a really great vendor list, and I have been adding to it. I could just always use 5 or 6 more. So as a result, with energy prices up and inflation up, what you're seeing is housing inventory increasing, rents are still up, but there's a lot of turnover. And I would say to you, when you're trying to decide, what am I gonna do? What's really going on? I think this is how it's gonna shake out. We are gonna look at this time and say, wow, I wish I had bought. It's actually a great time to buy, especially for those first-time buyers that haven't bought. I do not believe we are gonna see a big fallout in prices, and that is because of replacement costs being so high. And the amount of housing inventory living in metropolitan San Diego, very difficult. Maybe out in Jacumba, maybe out in Boulevard, but not here. Not anywhere where you can commute to one of the employment hubs in the area. Downtown, Sereno Valley, Carlsbad, Poway Corridor. Anybody who commutes to one of those 4 major areas needs to be within a maybe half-hour commute of it. And with gas prices so high, they don't want to really go so far away. So that's what's happening in our marketplace and what's keeping your values up, which is a great news. In terms of turnover in our marketplace, we started the beginning of this year with 1,350 homes in the market, the lowest I've ever seen in 32 years. We are now up at a whopping 4,600, not anywhere near what a normal market would be. If this were a hard over seller's market, and this is a hard over buyer's market, we've just come down a little bit. We should be, to be at a break even, we should be really at an inventory of about 10,000 homes out of 3 million. But we are not anywhere close to that. We're at 4,600. And I don't think we're gonna actually get to that. Our acquisition of new inventory this past month has actually been pretty low. And that's because there's a lot of people who do want to buy, who've been sitting on the fence and are finally able now that they see inventory coming on. So if you have friends and family that have never bought, and even if they don't have a great down payment, there are some state grants now available to them. And on the flip side, if you know of a seller, particularly an older seller, I'm going to say a more vulnerable seller, I really hope that you reach out to them, because my fear is that they're going to go to one of those ads they hear on TV for Sunday.com or OpenDoor.com, and all they're really doing is giving their money to Wall Street instead of actually getting to keep some of that and partnering with a local builder and keeping some of their own profits for equity that they've paid for and with hard-earned paychecks over the years. So I hope that helps in kind of a perspective of things. Amazing time to buy up. And if you're going to sell and go down and out, you really need to pay attention to where you're moving your money to, particularly what states. I'd be referring you to some of my great tax guy, Fred, and to get some other advice on some of that so that you make sure you keep more of your money. Hope you have a great day. Can't wait to talk to you.